I have to say about the napkins.
Okay, everybody in Facebook land, we'll be getting started right in a few minutes. We're just getting settled down here, and then we'll hand the meeting over to the Deputy Mayor, Dr. E, who will take over the chair for this process. You won't be able to see her for this part, but hey.
That's okay.
You can hear her.
That's
So anytime you're ready, oh, that's yours.
Come on, water.
Okay, Lynn, whenever you're ready.
Okay, we'll call this meeting to order.
6:15.
6:15. Okay. First order of business. In March 2023, council members confirmed that they wanted to create a new strategic plan for the municipality in-house using RMB administrative resources, and that it would be based on the previous strategic plan. Ideas brought forward since the new council took office and ideas brought up during the strategic planning session itself. The strategic planning session will be facilitated by RMB CAO Bob Brooks. It should also be noted that this session is open to the public and will be live streamed on Facebook. Call to order. Declarations of conflict of interest. Approval of agenda for with no additions, the particular special council meeting. Oh, let's see here.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out there's a different rule for special council meetings. Do you want to roll it up a little bit, Ashley? Sure. There's a different rule for special council meetings where you have to advertise what the special or what special council is being called for, what the items that are going to be discussed on the agenda, and then you have to stick to the agenda. It's not like a normal council meeting. It's a special meeting that was called specifically to deal with these items. So these have been advertised for the last 2 weeks, and so these are the agenda items. So there is no movement for, well, you still need a mover to accept the agenda, but you're not adding anything to the agenda.
And then there's going to be discussion on that.
Sorry about that.
Then there's going to be discussion on that.
You can have a mover and a seconder, and then you can discuss it further if you like. So I still need a mover and a seconder.
So can I have a mover? Okay. Trish, second by Billy. Votes for.
Okay, hold on. Jim said he wanted to discuss that further.
Go ahead, Jim.
Well, you're aware I have a lot of issues with that Municipal Governance Act. There's some significant shortfalls in it. And something that I notice here is that I don't think we should be setting a strategic plan for 5 years. That's far too far into the future. When I look at some of the items that are on there where we're supposed to be allocating monies towards it, we don't know what's going to happen in 2 or 3 years. I can see a strategic plan for recovery next year. I noticed one thing that I think there has to be significant changes to that Municipal Governance Act. Because I'm doing research on it. We have 46 rural municipalities in this province, and I don't know any of them other than us have adopted some of the recommendations. It was based upon a couple of things. It was based upon 4,400 people to make us viable municipality. And what the government wanted people to do, this shows how out of touch they were with rural Prince Edward Island, is they wanted the communities to amalgamate to make the 4,400 people. And once you have the 4,400 people, then they wanted you to hire somebody for have a municipal office open for 20 hours per week. So right now, we've got all these municipalities in Prince Edward Island that are not complying with what they're supposed to do, where they've tried to come up with a one-size-fits-all.
Okay, let me stop you there, Jim. Have to do a point of order. The Municipal Government Act is what is in place now. That is what you gave an oath to. That is the legislation that we're currently under, and it's also, the MGA is not what's on the agenda for today. If you want to bring it up, we can bring it up at a council meeting. However, that said, to your point about the strategic planning session, it's not a 5-year, it's a 4-year. And there's 3 things involved in the planning. First of all, you have your annual budgets that all of council is involved in. That's your 1-year plan. You have a strategic plan, which is there for the council term. That's a 4-year plan, setting out what your aspirations are for the council. And the third thing is the official plan. That's the thing that you're working on now. That's your long-term vision. It could be 10, 20, 50 years if you want. So that's your long-range vision. However, what we're doing today and what's on the agenda for today is the strategic plan for the municipality, and it's set out as a special council meeting, meaning that's the only thing that's on the agenda for us to talk to strategic plan related.
Okay.
So nothing to do with the
The
MJ.
strategic plan should not be more than 1 year in advance.
That's
Because
what the
we have
budget
no
is of
idea.
1 year.
We have no idea what's gonna happen, what's coming down, whether it's appropriate when we're starting to allocate. Because when I look at the agenda, and I look at the items on there, we're asked to allocate money towards budgets for years in the future, but we have no idea what our situation is gonna be at that time.
Okay, okay,
Everything
so,
may change.
first of all, 2 things. Council made a decision during the budget deliberations that they wanted an in-house strategic planning session. It was laid out at that time. Council said they wanted to go with the 4-year process to do a strategic plan. So that decision, whether you agree with it or not, has already been made. That we want to do a strategic planning session. Secondly, each year when you do your budget session, you're following, administration is following along the directions that are given through the strategic plan, but you, as a council, every year will decide, oh, something's happened, we can't afford that this year, or oh, something's happened and we want to not do this, or we want to defer this out of the strategic plan. So that's what's going to happen every single year during budget session. However, it is mandated that you have a plan, and in this case, our council has decided that they want a strategic plan that's been voted on during the budget session, and that's what we're doing now. If you don't want to participate in the strategic planning session, you don't have to. However, council had said they wanted one, that's what we're doing right now. And so what we need to do is to get the mover and the seconder. We have that for the special council meeting agenda, and now it's time for the deputy mayor to call for a vote.
Okay, thank you.
Is council okay with that?
Yes, thank you, Bob. Votes for? Aye. Any nays?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Continue.
Yeah.
Any public presentations this evening?
So, we have 2 members of the public. Did you want to make a presentation?
No speeches? No speeches.
We all good?
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Can I just say something about Bob? Because I attended the AGM. I was so amazed, like, at your growth that you've had. I don't remember the figures, but it was what, like 4 or 5 times growth in a matter of years. So
Yeah.
I just thought that was really awesome.
Thank you.
So,
So then we're on to item 5.
to Bob to speak, our CAO.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, so I'm just turning off the screen for now so that I can do the opening remarks on our strategic planning
Not
session.
blaring you in the face.
That's right. So I just wanted to get started now because we have some people on Facebook who may or may not have an agenda in front of them. I'll read out some of the opening remarks, but during the session, when we bring up something, Ashley's going to take some notes in real time. That's why I'm not up here with a whiteboard or anything like that, because she's just going to type it on there so that you'll be able to see it on the screen. So when you throw out some ideas for something, you'll be able to see what's on there, and we'll be able to review it if we need to, whatever. So that'll be done in real time with Ashley. Thank you, Ashley. And also thanks to Ashley for doing the live stream. And I have to welcome not only the people on live stream, but everybody say hello to Mayor Garth Gillis, who could not
Hi,
be
Garth.
with us today.
We
Hello,
miss you.
Garth.
We
But
miss you, Garth.
is doing this session on live stream. He has actually already provided his comments for us, and so that we can have those considered. We had also hoped to have Charlie's comments, but for some reason those comments didn't get to us in time. That said, the process that is going to go on for the strategic planning session, we're going to have our discussion. We're going to talk about the various items on the strategic plan, and then we will, after this is over, Ashley and I will put together the document to say this is basically what you've suggested that we should go forward with. That suggestion will then go to the council members as well as the public on our website and announce through Facebook to say this is what we came up with in our session. Do you like it? Do you not like it? What do you think of this? And then so council will have a time to not only look at it to see if that's what they thought they said or wanted, but also the public, if the public says, hey, I don't like this or I do like that or whatever, we'll let you know what those comments are, and then you can take that into the decision when we bring it forward to a council meeting for ratification. Having said that, you don't have to ratify it at that time. If you say, well, we had so many comments that we actually want to have some more work done on it, or we'd like to do another session, or we just like another month to think about it, we can defer it. So at some point, you will then be happy with whatever iteration that you have to consider, and you will vote on it, and then that strategic plan will be in effect for 2023 to 2027. Well, actually, it's 26-27. So that means the first 3 months of that year, because that's what our years are on, the fiscal years, right? So that basically covers your term of office, and it gives the new council, whoever that might be for the next term, 3 months on the plan to think about what they want to do for the next one, because then they'll have in front of them the budget. So basically, this is a process for us to come forward with the ideas about what you want to see as a council to happen over the next 4 years, or at least for us to work toward. For those that don't know, we had the first strategic plan for this municipality for 2019 to 2024. And that was because we had a mandate through the Municipal Government Act that said we had to do this and this and this. At that time, when we took on that plan, none of those things were in place, but they all had a timeline by legislation that we had to have done by. Happy to say that the strategic plan for 2019 to 24 was very successful. We were able to accomplish all of the things that the MGA, the Municipal Government Act, had asked us to do. The only thing that was not accomplished was the official plan and development bylaw, and that's only because they came back to us about 6 months ago and said, we have decided to give municipalities another couple of years to complete this. So council at that time said, well, there's a number of people from the public that wanted some more discussions, so they agreed to defer it so that we would try and finish the official plan and development bylaw this fiscal year, meaning sometime before March 31, so that it can come into force on April 1st, 2004. However, should we not be ready for that, you still have till 2025 if you decide you still need more time. So really, this is just a process. We're now doing a strategic plan for this term. These members of council you've already, through the election process, you've already had some discussions about what some of the residents would like to do. You're representing them, and you want to bring forward a vision. So let me get to some of the text that's written that some of the people don't have. So the starting draft of the 23-26 strategic plan was drawn up by the administrative team of RMB at the request of council. This starting draft was based on RMB's current strategic plan and the ideas suggested by council to date. To give time and encourage public participation, this starting draft was announced in the Belfast newsletter, announced in RMB's Facebook site, and placed on RMB's website for public review and initial comment. This draft was also supplied to council and administration at least 1 week in advance so they might prepare their thoughts. The CAO will now go over the components of this starting draft. And then we'll open the floor for discussion after each component, okay? So you'll allow me to get through or state what's going on in each of the areas, and then after that component is finished, then I'll open the floor for any suggestions, questions, whatever. However, for context, you'll remember in some previous council meetings, there was not sufficient information or knowledge of the new councilors to say, well, what does administration actually do? So for context, there was some human resource activity in very general terms. Because HR activity is typically an in-camera confidential discussion, this section has been kept very general so the council may better understand the context of what HR resources and structure that the municipality is currently working on. No financial discussion will take place at this time, or I should say no financial decisions. You can make suggestions, that's fine. The CAO contract will be discussed in October 23, and any other financial line items will be discussed during the budget process. So basically the HR stuff is kept very general, but I did provide councilors with some timeline activity over the last 4 months that gave some detail so that you would know what the CAO job through the MGA is asking for. In addition to that, and that's what I'll go through in the general form, what this HR stuff talks about. So R&D HR activities break down into 4 sections. Administration, website, social media, financial, legislation, bylaws, policy, and land development, projects, events. The public hours that we operate for R&D is 20 hours per week per the Municipal Government Act for the current workload. And required by MGA and as per council passage of the 23-24 budget and financial plan, RMB has limited human resources. That's it. The current HR positions are as follows. 1, Chief Administrative Officer, CAO, that's me, contracted and paid to work only 85 hours per month. Currently averaging 109 hours per month for 2023. And the only reason I bring this forward is because this strategic plan says, what do we want to do in 23-24? What do we want to do in 24-25? And keep in mind, all the things that we're doing, we'll go over that, what we're already doing, and how much time it's taking. And the budget's already set, so basically I have to live within the budget that you've already set, okay? When we talk about the next fiscal year and the next fiscal year after that, if you say, well, in 24, 25, we want to do this and this and this, I'll tell you that, okay, that's fine, it'll take this many hours, it'll cost this many dollars, and then when it gets to the budget discussions, then you can decide whether you want to do that or defer it or whatever. So, contract is for the CAO is on an annual basis from January 1st to December 31st. 4 months worth of monthly time logs were sent to council only, so council might better understand the types of duties being performed by the CAO. These statistics for 2023 should be kept in mind for additional desired tasks. 2024 hours and beyond for the CAO will be discussed during the contract negotiations for the CAO as per the new strategic plan. Okay. If you say you want me to do less, that'll have a bearing on the CAO contract. If you want to do more, that'll have a bearing. And it also has a bearing on the budget itself, because in addition to what I do, there's a whole team of administration behind that. Here's your team. We have one part-time administration person currently working 20 hours per week during public office hours. And due to increased workload demands, the CAO budgeted for administration to move to 25 hours per week as of September 1, 2023. In addition to assisting the CAO with all the required MDA administrative requirements, this position spearheads all social media, live streaming, and website duties as well. We also have one part-time person currently working as required over 100 hours in 2022. This position is responsible for the coordination of the RMB Municipal Emergency Management Plan, otherwise known as MIM. Similar hours are expected in 23-24, and you will have noticed in our strategic plan draft that there's a lot of MEP work that has to be done that is legislated by the MDA to do on an annual basis. Then we also have one part-time development officer. As approved in the last budget and financial plan, RMB will have a part-time development officer that will help RMB through the final consultation and approval process of the official community plan and development bylaw and the hours as required. We don't know how many hours that's going to be. It depends on the consultation process, but I've built in enough trying to be flexible in that. And we also don't know if the official plan and development bylaw is going to be finished this year. We may have to carry on that same exercise next year, and if not, if we don't carry on that exercise again next year, it means it's coming into force, and then they'll be brought on as a development officer, handling all the development proposals, applications, all that stuff. So the HR summary, in HR, it's important to remember the council only has one employee, that's me. Per the MGA, which is the CAO, and the CAO is responsible for all the other RMB staff. That avoids any kind of interference, conflicts of interest, whatever. So basically, I'm your person. If you don't like what's going on, that is what you deal with during the CAO contract discussions. And there's even clauses in there saying, geez, we got to get rid of that guy sooner. So we want to give notice, and or at the same token, I have that same ability in my contract to say, hey, these guys are way too much trouble, and I'm out of here. So then, but having said that, you will have noticed that on year 3.5, Bob has built right into the strategic plan CAO replacement because it's my intention to retire again. That's right.
No!
So that by the next fiscal year, I will have turned 70, and I figure that's good enough. Anyway, so now,
We can still call you, right?
oh yeah, no doubt. Okay, so now the plan is to go over the components. The HR stuff is merely there for background for you, and it's not up for discussion at this point. If you decide you want to talk about HR stuff in the near future, you can put it on any council agenda, and when it goes on that council agenda, it will now go in camera for discussions, meaning confidential. No minutes are taken because it's a private matter, HR matter. So let's start with the components of the strategic plan. In the document that we put out already, you would all, different from the old strategic plan, there was no introduction. So I wanted to build in an introduction just to let people know, what are we doing? What's this document for? The introduction said, as it currently reads, in July 2019, the Rural Municipality of Belfast, RMB, its council, administration, and residents, with the help of the MRSD group, developed its very first ever strategic plan for the municipality. The vision and 2019 to 22 roadmap was almost entirely focused on bringing the municipality into compliance with the new Municipal Government Act, a fact that was pointed out early on in some of our council meetings. And that's correct. This act standardized the types of legislation that municipalities from all across Prince Edward Island would be required to have written or have within its own operation. The MGA also provided flexibility so that each municipality had the ability to customize each of the pieces of the MGA to the individual visions and practices of the municipalities. Having achieved the goals from the first strategic plan, and with the election of a new council for RMB, it's now time for the next strategic plan. RMB is again hoping for some great participation from council, administration, and the public in designing RMB's future. That section will be removed out of the strategic plan after it goes in, and it will be replaced with, thanks to the residents of RMB, council members, and administration who all had a hand in this new RMB strategic plan for the years 2023 through 2027. Now you should really change that so that it says 2023-24, because that's the fiscal year we're in, to 2026-27. So actually, if you want to open that thing, we will open the floor up for discussion and comment. The question to you is that the kind of introduction that you want to see in this document? Or is there something else that we should try and fit into the introduction? I did try and keep it to one page. One thing about the introduction and the background, a lot of this information is also taken right out of the official plan. Well, the official plan is going to be about 50 pages long. We only want to snip it to say, why are we doing a strategic plan? So we'll do this introduction, and then the next one after that is again a one-slide background. That's right. So is council okay? Well, first of all, Garth had said he's okay with the introduction as written. Does anybody else have any comments or have anything they want to add or change?
Looks good.
Good for the next round.
Yep.
Okay, so let's move on to the background. And in the background, RMB acknowledges this is what it currently says. And again, I took a lot of this information off of our own stuff, off of our official plan draft that we had. And this is what it says. Again, I wanted to keep it to one page. RMB acknowledges that Prince Edward Island, I'm not sure if that's the way it's spelled, PEI is unceded Mi'kmaq territory. The RMB municipal area is located in the eastern region of PEI and was incorporated in 1972. As per the 2021 Canadian Census of Population, RMB has a population of 1,687 and encompasses a total land area of 230 square kilometers, which is now the second largest municipality by area in PEI. We were the largest, but then Montague amalgamated a few and became the largest. PEI is currently experiencing significant population growth, and while there are no specific population projections available for the RMB area, like the rest of the island, the population is expected to continue to grow significantly. And with the completion of the official plan, population projections may become available because there's more work and more census information that may become available at that time. But this was 2021, you know, the stats can comes out with stuff. Typically the drill down takes a little longer to come out, so we might have more information specifically about our municipality or not. RMB is located in the southeastern Queens County and has historically been predominantly an agriculture and fishing area. However, today, the municipality also hosts a number of distinct and prominent commercial sectors. The municipality is located approximately 30 minutes driving from the province's capital, Charlottetown, and less than 20 minutes drive to the town of Three Rivers to the northeast, which is Montague for those that can't remember. Actually, it's not Montague. It's Montague, it's Georgetown, and it's... No, Three Rivers is Montague, Georgetown, and Brunel. Anyway. RMB boasts a range of services and amenities, including recreational facilities, a school, general store, post office, Northumberland ferries, 2 lighthouses, and restaurants. And RMB is generally bordered by the Northumberland Strait to the south and west, Orwell Bay to the northwest, and unincorporated area inland, and also boasts some of the very lowest tax rates for municipal areas in PEI. That's basically the background. Again, we tried to keep it to one page. Some of it came from the official plan. As you can see, Garth was okay with the background as written as well. Because we're just trying to give people a sense of who we are. Okay, so let's move on to the vision. Last strategic plan, we came up with a vision statement and a mission statement. And the vision statement is a vibrant, sustainable rural municipality for all residents and visitors that promotes community engagement, social and economic development, and environmental stewardship. Those were the 4 pillars that the strategic plan was based on, and that's in all of our policies and legislation that we had done over the past 4 years. We try and live up to those 4 pillars. So, is council happy with that vision, or do they want to see some sort of amendment? Garth was okay with the vision as written.
I think it still suits what we try and do in Compass.
I think our municipality is becoming more diverse, and so I would suggest if we could add something, possibly add something just to include the diversity, to just encompass that we are open to newcomers and
Encourage diversity.
yeah.
Okay, so we'll throw in encourage diversity, into there for now. And I'll try and find a good phraseology. Does the rest of council, like that inclusion? Or do they wanna leave it the way it is?
Like it the way it is myself.
Right?
I think it depends on how it's written and worded. Because I see what you're saying, Catherine, but I also see that it is captured, to me, it's captured still in the vision of the community, engaging social. So I see it is
It could
captured
be,
in there.
it could be tricky, right? I agree, it depends how it's
So
written.
it would have to be,
Okay, so when I plug in, encourage diversity, I will, any changes that we do to this document, I'll have in bold, red, so that they jump out at you. And then when it comes back for your decision, we can adjust it at that time, say, no, I don't like the inclusion, or yes, I do, and at that time, we can include it or not. Does that sound good?
I don't understand what encourage diversity is, because if you encourage diversity, would have a program that says we're gonna say we encourage people of whatever to come and move to Belfast. I don't
Potentially
You want to
depends
speak
how
to
it's
that,
written.
Catherine?
I don't understand.
I guess it depends how it's written.
But when you made the suggestion, what was your
I mean,
idea?
I don't know, I haven't read a lot of other municipality or counties' vision statements, but I think something to me that should be force center, that
I don't think we're gonna turn anybody down who wants to move to Belfast. Okay, who they are.
I'll look for something that tries to explain the encourage diversity and the importance of it, but let's for now, it's just there as a placeholder. Okay, and then you can say yes and no at that time. Because again, this is just suggestions that are gonna go forward. And we may hear from the public that, because that'll be for them to look at as well, they may have some comments. So let's just leave it there as a placeholder. Everybody else said they were fine the way it was. So let's go on to the mission statement. To provide transparency, and this is how it currently reads, provide transparency, open communication, and due diligence, supporting access to resources, information, and services to the people of the municipality while preserving and enhancing the quality of life. That's the current mission statement.
I'd like to see the words fiscal responsibility put in there.
Okay? So the same thing would happen. I will try and find a way to fit that in the wording. I'll have it bolded. If you like it, you can keep it. If you don't like it, you can take it out. Does that work for everybody? Was there any other suggestions? No?
I think it's fine.
So now we get into the meat of the action items. All the things that we have to do on a year-to-year basis in order to achieve your vision for this municipality and what you see the growth is. Now, just as a background, remember, we have a few tools in our toolbox. We have the community grants. The community grants you give out on a yearly basis promotes the things that are in your strategic plan. For example, it promoted economic development, social development, environmental stewardship, engaged visitor, that sort of thing. So we basically tried to give grants to those that fit into our strategic plan. You may remember right in the community grants application, it says, does your program fit in with the strategic plan or the vision for this municipality? And almost to unanimous, everybody said yes, yes it does. Whether it did or not, yes it does. However, that's then up to council to tools that you help to bring your vision forward. The next thing we have is the gas tax grants program, now called the community, is it?
Canada
Building fund. Anyway,
Yeah,
community
building
building
fund.
fund. It's the,
CCBF.
yeah, Canada's PEI's Infrastructure Area Secretary Program, which is what used to be called the gas tax fund, and it's about $350,000. And the same thing happens. You get proposals. You say, does it fit in with our strategic plan? Does it fit in with our vision? And you will decide. We had something like 20 proposals, and I think we gave out 14 grants to do projects that basically help to build our municipality in the direction that we had set through our strategic plan and our budget for that matter. The budget is the other tool that we have.
Can I just ask a question about the gas tax, just because I'm not on it?
Sure.
Can that, if we had a project that we wanted to do as a municipality, do we have access to that, or is it
Correct.
just to be sent out?
No, actually, in regards to that funding, their priority is for the municipality to look at the funds first. The reason it was built for this gas tax fund was so that municipalities could build their infrastructure and work on certain things, and it's laid out in the criteria of the gas tax applications. But first priority is for the municipalities to look at it to see if they want to use it. If they don't have any personal use for it, then they'll say, oh, well, we can give it out to the community. For example, there's a gas tax grants for the Belfast Rec Center to do improvements, and various others projects that were done. But no, the first priority is the municipality with that fund. And then the other thing is any policies that you do. That's a tool for setting your vision. We'll be discussing some of those things that are coming up that Sam is talking. The other thing is also the budget. When we talk about the budget, what plans you're going to do for the budget, that's a time when things are also brought up so that you can, as a council, decide if there's something else you want to do that may or may not be outlined in the strategic plan. Keeping in mind that anytime you do that, there's an HR cost and there's a physical monetary cost. Okay? But that's what you decide on every time you deal with the budget. So, the first thing, if we go to the 23-24 action items, we already have some action item ongoing and committed for 23-24 that currently reads. Now, one thing that we had not planned for is the code of conduct regulations. That's new. We only found out about a month ago. And there's actually, if you want to scroll down a little bit, Ashley, you'll see there's three things. There's a code of conduct, the review, the bylaw, and there's also the training. All those things are put upon us by the government of PEI, and they're saying you have to do that, and you have to do this. Once they get released, you have to do that within 6 months. Well, if that's the case, that means we have to work on it in the 23-24 fiscal year. Like I said, we didn't budget for us. However, I'll try and make sure that we're able to do that within the budget that we have already. We'll see how it goes. But that's, I won't go into detail all the things that are going to be required to do in this. Only that we are required. So when I talk about the suggested options, as this is an MGA requirement, the only option is to add the code of conduct items, that's all three of those items, to the RMB 23-24 workload action item list. There will be significant significant RMB administration human resource activity required, which is unbudgeted as I discussed, as well as significant council activity required. Because anytime the administration works on stuff like that, and we're looking for council input, council direction, and all that kind of stuff. And in this case, there's a training component as well. And as a matter of fact, the training component basically gave 6 months, a 6-month windows to all municipal staff, mayors, and councilors to complete this training for the code of conduct. And if you don't, then you're fined $500 per offense. So.
And you're council until you do it.
Until you accomplish that. So there's going to be some things that you have to do as well as staff and whatever. But either way, the suggestion option is you have no option. You have to do it.
So we've already got a code of conduct bylaw.
Yes. And the province has decided that
They're gonna
they,
provide one.
no, the province has decided that they want to change or adapt the code of conduct bylaw to reflect today's reality. So they are going to provide us with what it is that we need. Now, in every bylaw or legislation that you do, there's a component in there where you get to adapt it for your municipality. You know, some portion, maybe 5% of it, can be yours, and the rest of it is all theirs. But you still have to go through the public process where you tell the people what's going on. You give them the notices. You say what all the changes are. So there is a process that you have to do, but ultimately it's the province who will give us all 3 of those items in its original draft, and then it's what we do with them after that. You know, it causes all the work. I mean, it would be easy if they said, "Here's these 3 things," and we say, "Okay, passed." Well, it's not that easy. We have to go through the process. Same thing we have to do with every piece of legislation or any amendment to any piece of legislation. There's a large process. So, I'm just going to skip past those. I don't know if there's anything more to say other than the fact that we have to do it. So, also what is already ongoing and committed for 23-24, you'll see annually we do the community grants program. Until council says differently, that basically stays on our ongoing and committed. Every year you have a chance to adjust how much money you give in that, or even the terms of reference or whatever, but basically we're committed to do community grants every single year. The next thing is, for this year, we committed to doing a strategic plan. That's what we're doing right now. But it had to be built into this, because it's one of the things that's on the workload. Okay?
Is that part of the Municipal Government Act that we have to provide a strategic plan?
Strategic plan?
Or is that something that was decided by the council itself?
That was suggested by council itself. The MGA requires an official plan, and council decided that 5 years ago, that, well, we don't have an official plan yet, so let's do a strategic plan. At least we can have some sort of plan that we can look at, or give us some direction for the next 4 years. So they decided to do a strategic plan, and then when we brought it forward to this council, because it was a new council, we said to this council, that's the strategic plan that we had 4 years ago. That was their vision. It was all about, you had pointed out, Jim, that it's all about the MGA. However, the option was given to this council. Well, for a new strategic plan, do you want it to reflect the same thing you want? Maybe you don't want a strategic plan, or do you want to have something that reflects your vision as a newly elected council for this term? You guys, as a council, decided, let's update the one that we have and bring it into the current reality and vision of this council. So that's where we're at with that.
Yeah, I didn't realize, I thought that was a requirement under the Municipal Government Act. And I didn't realize, or else I would have had some things to say about it when it came up.
That's what happens when you're do, council, there's a lot of things that you learn in the first year. However, by going through the strategic planning process, gives you a chance to say, okay, you want a strategic plan, you want to say what you want to achieve over 4 years, so what is it? What's your vision? What do you want to do? So that's what we're doing now. The other thing that is already committed is the official plan and development bylaw, and that's the completion of it. I mentioned earlier that we're going to open it back up for discussions. We'll bring on the development officer to help us through the process. We'll try and complete it for this fiscal year. If that's not possible, we have the ability through the Municipal Government Act, because they have given the extension for the next fiscal year. But the sooner you do the official plan and development, the sooner you get your vision in place rather than the government's vision in place. Now, having said that, anybody who's seen the official plan, you'll know that 95% of it you're already doing. We have no official plan yet, but the government is basically running the show on that through the Planning Act, through the Municipal Government Act. You have to do things as same things that are shown in the official plan. However, 5% of that official plan is, well, how do we tweak it so that it works best for this municipality? Every municipality is going to be different. Some, maybe in this municipality, it's really important to promote agriculture or business or tourism or all of the above or whatever. So it depends on what you want to do as a municipality in the official plan. However, that is on the books for this year to try and have it completed this fiscal year. If not, we do have the flexibility to extend it another year if we find through the consultation that we're not quite there yet. Then we have, okay, so those are, then the next one here talks about the designation and decision of the reserve funds. Remember, during the budget process, we had $65,000 that set aside for a decision of council how you want to use that reserve funding. We had said in a couple meetings, well, let's not do it yet, wait till you have your strategic plan discussions to see how you want to use the money. You were given approximately a couple months to think about, well, how do we want to use this money? Do we want to set it aside for certain things? Do we want to have something new or whatever? So this is the point that we talk about things to do with that money. Okay, so first of all, the ones that had come up from previous discussions were the reserve fund for future office expansion. As we talked about earlier, as soon as we get to the point where we are starting to look at development permits, permitting, applications, we are suddenly going to become very busy because the province is looking at approximately 55 to 150 proposals for development every year for this area. Okay, so that's what they're doing now. And that means you have to have the facility to be able to look at the development permits, look at the applications. They have to do applications, look at what they're applying for. Does it fit in with their official plan? Does it fit in with their development bylaw? So that's just one example of things. You'll see the office grow. Other things could be whatever you decide in, for example, more funding programs. If we get into the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Green Fund, they can do projects where they give projects directly to the municipality, and we may have to administer projects for that. It could be a $50,000 project, it could be a $1 million project. FCM Green Funds has a lot of money that they have not been able to give away for many years. specifically helps if you're talking about anything green or environmentally friendly, responsible, that sort of thing. So whatever projects.
The example they used at the AGM was the Southern Park, solar
Yeah.
expansion, that was all funded.
So, all that to say that depending on how you want to grow, or if you want to grow, if you say, I don't want to grow, I just want to stay with what we're doing now, then we won't have any issue about having to expand, because if we don't grow, then the facilities that we have now will suffice.
Are you saying that you need to understand that in the Municipal Governments Act, it says that we are required, well, number one, I know we're required to follow the Provincial Planning Act. When I looked at that document that came under that, all that consultant who did was then copy the Provincial Planning Act and presented it as being our official plan.
Correct.
And so,
But that, you're right,
So-
because,
so why are we,
yeah, but let me ask the first part, answer the first part of your question. The reason they presented an official plan, they basically copied the planning act, is because 95% of everything that the province is already doing has to be in your official plan. The other 5%, then there was ideas that they were looking for, and you heard a lot of people say, well, why don't we do this, or why don't we do that? That's the part where you get that extra 5%. So yes, the official plan will predominantly mirror what you're already doing.
and right now, the province is doing, they're providing all that. So
Correct.
my question, we're doing the same thing. Why are they, all they're doing is offloading the cost when they've got all the resources, they've got all the access to GeoLink and to all the mapping systems, and they've got the expertise of the staff to deal with something we developing. Why on earth would we be interested in any way in simply taking that over from the province?
First of
And we're
all,
already doing it.
we were not interested in doing that. We had stated, as a matter of fact, almost every municipality stated, with the exception of 3, had stated that we don't want, as you said, this is offloading. So we don't want to do this stuff. However, it was required by legislation that we go ahead and do that. So it wasn't our decision to do it. It's our responsibility to live up to the
I
legislation.
think what we should be doing is writing a letter to the Minister of Lands saying, we do not want this to happen.
I want it, go.
That time is
Yeah, but it's
already,
the same thing.
that time
All we're
is
doing
past.
is, we have to follow the Provincial Planning Act. They are already administering it, they got all the resources to do it. All of a sudden, they want us to start doing it, the same thing that they're already doing. So why would we do it?
I agree. I do. I see your point, but I guess the reason I'm for it is for the benefits of it. And I know
What are the
you don't see
There
the
are no
benefits.
benefits to it.
There are.
There are no benefits to it. I'm sorry.
Okay, first of all, we're off topic.
We're off topic.
Yeah, we're off topic. We're only talking about the use of the reserve funds. As far as the MGA and what we're required to do, that's very clearly laid out as to what the things are that we have to do. The things that Jim talked about, we already tried that 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 7 years ago, whatever, and we failed. Municipalities failed in that process. When I spoke to the municipal affairs, they said, we know that some don't like it, some do like it. However, we want to try it. That was their words. We want to try it. So we put it into legislation, and we're now we're trying. And so that's the legislation we have to do right now. But, having said that, we're off topic. The topic is the reserve fund, and whether you believe you should grow as, or you expect to grow as a municipality, in which case the space that we're in now, we will need to expand. However, does that mean we will expand in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? So I was always of the philosophy is if it's going to cost you money down the road, then you plan for it and you put some monies away in a reserve fund so that when you have to make that decision, years from now, we say, okay, well, we're busting at the seams here. We got to expand, already saved, I don't know, $100,000, now we can expand, and it won't cost us any money. The other alternative is, okay, well, we need to, I don't know, build a building or build an extension or whatever, it's gonna cost $100,000. We need to go out for ratepayer approval if we're gonna borrow some money to do it, in which case it then costs you interest monies. So you will save a lot of money if you just put a little bit away each year until you actually need it. That's the theory. If you believe, and I do, that the municipality is going to grow as you do more and more, and as your residents want you to do more and more, that at some point, I don't know what that's going to be, but at some point, we will need to expand. Whether that means punching out a wall in our office, getting a different facility here in this area or somewhere else, we don't know. But when we go to comments, Garth said he liked the idea of using the current reserve for future expansion. He didn't have a comment on how much per year he wanted to set aside the reserve for a reserve, or how much of the reserve that he wanted to use. We have 65. He didn't say, oh, let's put it all into. He just knows that he believes that we should be setting up the reserve for future expansion whenever that is. Anybody else have any feelings on whether you want to do a reserve for expansion?
I like the idea. If it's required to expand, then at that time we deal with the raise taxes at the time, because there's already money in the reserve fund. And
No, that should be gone. Based on what we're doing now, that reserve will either be there or not. So
it says there's $65,000 in there.
I know, but you're saying if in the future we need to expand. This whole discussion is about using that 65, and that's in reserve. Do you want to set it aside?
But it's based on the notion that we are going to have to expand our under administrative services.
It's under the notion that I think, based on what we've seen over the last 5 years, and the way the municipality's growing, and with the ideas that you have already expressed as a council, that I believe we will be required to expand. You may say, stop doing all that work and just stay with what we have, and then you never have to worry about expansion. We have enough space. If you stop growing, we have enough space. If you believe that we're going to grow as a municipality, then you're going to need to set some money aside, unless you want to do, as Jim just suggested, we can raise taxes at the time. If you had to raise taxes for $100,000, 1 cent equals $16,000. So you remember the hoopla that we had in the previous budget, where they said, well, just to do the mosquito abatement program, we would have to do 4 cents. And that raised everybody's taxes by about, the median price, if I remember correctly, worked out to raising their taxes by about $50. They didn't want that to happen. They preferred to see 1 cent increase on a gradual climb. However, for $100,000 or $150,000, you might have to go to them and say, hey, we need to double your taxes.
I'm afraid I can't see where we're going to spend that kind of money in the future.
Okay.
I just can't see it. There's too many municipalities that cannot comply with this stuff. They're going to have to change, and that's just like as obvious as the nose on your face.
Okay. Okay, so that's Jim's position. Does somebody else have an opinion about growth?
Well, the numbers for the province are looking at needing 2 places the size of Stratford within the next coming decade, if not sooner. And chances are that's going to overflow into here. We're the next obvious direction for things to start flowing. So there needs to be something in case, for whatever reason, whether it is for expansion or whatever needs to go on.
I suppose there's, you know, I should bring it up, but let's say you do a reserve for expansion. And you put in $5,000 a year, and you get it up to about $50,000, and at some point you say, we want to use this money for something else. Then council will have the ability to say, we no longer want to use this money for an expansion, let's change the definition of this reserve, and let's use it for this instead. You always have, as council, you always have that ability on a yearly basis, every time you talk about the budget, to change the funds. So, at this point, because we're doing a 4-year vision, as Jim said, I mean, things could change drastically next year, the year after, whatever. You can put these things in place and then change or adapt as you want to. So that's to your point.
Yeah.
Well, we don't deliver any municipal services at all right now, and I can see we're not going to be delivering any in the future. And as far as people wanting to develop to ship from Stratford to Belfast, that's what the original planning act deals with.
Okay,
They don't deal with any subdivision development,
okay.
maybe environmental issues.
So now we've heard from you and Bill, and so
Go ahead. I'm happy with, at least using some of it. I'm just wondering if we could make a decision on how much we keep in reserve after we've gone through
absolutely,
what we need to do.
absolutely.
Or
As a matter
what
of
we
fact-
want to do, I guess.
As a matter of fact,
in case there's something that comes up.
let's say we've gone through this process and you've used up 30,000, based on what you decided to do. You could say at that time, okay, well, we have 35 left. Why don't we just put that in the growth reserve and or tag it for future discussion or future decision? But we can park it in the growth reserve for now, just to take it out of the cash flow. That's what we want to do. We don't want to put it in the cash flow. You want to actually save it for something. So yes, so to your point, we don't have to give a figure right now. We just have to say we should have set up a reserve, whether it's $1, $10, whatever. But we should set one up for future stuff. You don't have to put a figure on it, no. But no, even during the budget side, if you haven't decided how much money, you still don't have to. You can just sit there, just like it is now, to be determined. Tricia.
Yeah, I much prefer setting some aside based on after we get through this process over raising taxes.
Yeah,
And Lynn.
I think raising taxes would be the last resort.
Yeah.
From just knowing this community and knowing the municipality and just how our visions are, like what we want for this community, I think we have to err on the side of caution before we touch taxes.
Okay,
So we need to have like,
Why don't we save this one? We know that you want to have the reserve. You don't know how much money you want to put in it right now. So why don't we do the other things? And then you can decide if you want to put or how much money you want to put in that reserve.
Perfect.
Okay, because we have, the vast majority said they want to have a reserve, so we'll just park it for now
yeah,
and see what kind of dollar figure you want to put in there. I do believe you should put some dollar figure in there, whatever it is.
Well, it had the taxes had to be raised in order to get it in the first place. Maybe we could just freeze it at $65,000 and reduce taxes by the amount of money it took to raise it.
And that's
First
possible,
place.
to do during the budget discussions for next year. You could say, I want a tax decrease, we'll take the money out of the reserve. So that is something you can do next year. You can't do it now, but you can keep that as an option for.
Well, I guess there's already that reserve is going to grow anyway.
You don't know. The only reason it grows is because, well, for example, 1 year, the province gave us $30,000 for COVID that we didn't need. But we sure liked having it, so that one year, I think I was $160 out or something, between expenditures and what we budgeted. But then another year, we had, like this year, we had some losses, right? Because there was other things that came up. So you don't always have extra money in the budget. It depends on how the year went and what activities. Last year was the only. Anyway, so the majority here has said they want to have a reserve. We don't know how much yet, so we'll move back to that. The next one we had was the reserve for the warming center. Well, that one was already given direction by council during the budget. That direction was $5,000, and the $5,000, the way it's used is it's in the budget for MEM, Municipal Emergency Management Plan. If we use it, well, we use it, and there's $5,000 if there's an emergency. If we don't use it, then whatever's left over goes into the reserve fund for a warming center. The only decision that really needs to be made that you haven't already made was, do you want a cap? Garth, what did Garth say?
Garth said 5,000 set aside each fiscal year.
Okay, so basically the question in all of these is, how much funding do you want to leave in there per year? You can simply say at this point that you just want to carry on with the 5,000 per year. At some point, you as a council are going to say, okay, that's enough. We'll stop putting that cap in. We've now got enough in emergency reserve to carry on. So currently the plan is to put $5,000 in there. And your suggestion for today is, do you want to keep putting $5,000? Because some of you may feel that, well, we need 20,000 or 25,000 or whatever. Everybody currently is talking about how this next 5 years are going to be the hottest 5 years on record. Everybody's talking, well, if scientists are saying we are going to get the same number of storms, but 3 or 4 of them are going to be more serious than have been in the past. Do you think you should have a warming center? I think you've already said, a reserve. You've already said it has, so the idea is how much do you want to put aside? You can do it a couple ways. You can put, the 5,000 was in the budget. However, with a reserve of 65, you can say, well, we can get it to the top now, or we can just keep budgeting $5,000 a year until we get to a cap, which we don't know what it is at the moment, and you don't have to know at the moment. Also, you know is that we want to do 5,000 this year. So,
As far as I'm concerned, I think we just go ahead and we should do it. You cannot put a timetable on something like fuel and half, and it could happen this year and next year. You can't say it's going to happen 5 years down the road, so they start putting the money aside for it now. I think we should just go ahead and either do it. If it's worthwhile doing, it needs to be done, and simply do it and be prepared ahead of time rather than be.
okay, and how much then? If you want to do it, so based on what you just said, we have 65
What
in
did
the
it
reserve.
cost at the Belfast Ring?
What's that?
What did it cost at the Belfast Ring?
Well, right now, it depends.
You're on $21,000, wasn't it?
That was for
No, that was for a generator. They have a generator now. Now we're talking about the operation of the soup kitchen, and or it really depends on the emergency.
It's going to depend on
It
the time
could
of
be-
year, it's going to depend on what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
How
So
long it is.
some emergencies you might be able to fix in an afternoon. You know, like the ferry thing that happened. Okay. However, some things may be power outages for 18 days, like we had with Fiona, and that's going to cost considerably more. So really, you are only saying, okay, you do have 5,000 set aside for that. Is it enough? If you don't think it's enough, then with your idea, Jim, you want to have a reserve.
We have to have a generator.
What size? No, you shouldn't need a generator because actually,
That's the big expense.
The rec center has the generator. Do we have it on here? Oh yeah, we do. That's actually the next option. The next option says, okay, for the second option warming center, the BEI government will only fund the operation of one warming center at a time. So, if there was a fuel spill here and it shut down this whole area, we would have to do the Belfast Rec Center as the warming center. However, maybe there was a contamination fuel spill at the Belfast Rec Center area, in which case they would all have to come to here for the warming center, okay? Or some major outage or whatever, forest fires, you know. And so it really depends on what the emergency is. They do need a generator, that's this option here, in order for them to become the second warming station.
Okay, yeah.
However, but that's this option for this option here as the warming center reserve. Do you think that 5,000 is enough?
Every issue that I have seen in the last 42 years since I've lived here, where there's been an emergency of some sort where warming center is needed, has been directly related to power. If there's no power, you have no heat. You have no heat, people can't run anything. They've got furnaces that they've got wood heat and more people get away from it. If you don't have power, you don't have anything. So my definition of a warming center is to have power to it.
So
Everything else takes care of
So
itself.
Belfast Rec Center, we gave them the power, and we gave them money to install it. That will be ready by the end of this fiscal year.
And they've got a kitchen there.
That's right. So that is our number one. We have to do an MOU for that is our number one option for a warming center.
There's power.
Right. But that's still not answering the question about the emergency reserve. Right now, it's going to be, if there's no emergency, it's going to be $5,000. Is that enough? What's that?
No.
So how much do you think it should be?
Whatever it takes to cost to get the power in, the generator.
I don't know.
Okay, so, but you don't have to, okay, you have two options. You can say, I think it should be 25, and I want to use 20,000 that's currently in that 65 reserve and put it right into that reserve, and then it'll just sit there in the emergency reserve because that 20 will be coupled by the 25. So no matter what happens over the course of this year, next year, the year after, whatever, it'll sit there at 25 until we need it. That's the emergency reserve. Or you can just do 5,000 per year for a while, and you can take 5,000 out of the 65, or you can budget it.
So, just so I can understand this fully,
Yeah.
then in fiscal year, Belfast Rec will have a generator. It'll be up and running and not as like paid for, covered already that we've already talked about.
Correct.
Correct.
We've already funded
So,
them for that.
what this, moving forward, so if we already have in our municipality spots by half power, heat, and cover this, then this is the extras to plan that, okay, can we do something at this end, can we do something else? So with that,
Or if there's an
there's a
emergency
bigger
in our
emergency,
municipality where suddenly we need
a secondary.
to contract some people that are to help out, whatever.
So my thought would be to put 10,000 in for this year and then add 5,000 every year until we basically go, okay, we've seen what's happened the last couple years. Do we need to continue to do this or not?
Okay. So your suggestion is, we have the 5,000 set aside. If we don't use it, that goes into the reserve. But you're suggesting we do 10,000 out of the 65
Yeah.
and put it into there. That will give us by the end of the fiscal year $15,000. And then you're suggesting we also budget 5,000 a year after that?
I was actually,
Why not?
sorry, with the 5,000 this year and an extra 5,000, so a total
That
of
would be
10.
enough.
And then adding
Oh, total of
5,000.
10.
Right, and then adding, 5,000 every year in case we need to
Okay.
see what the climate has done.
So that's 5 years out of the 65 reserve, and the 5 that's already budgeted, that would sit there with 10, and then put in the budget 5,000 each year.
Right, and then we can adjust that based on what is the crime going. And it's not that we're being reactive to any, you know, emergencies. We do have a range that will have power in that. It's a matter of, okay, how bad is it and do we need something at this end? And
Right, which is the next
the next
discussion
part.
actually.
Yeah.
Philip,
Yeah, I agree with that.
so 5,000 out of the 65,
Yeah.
and that'd give us 10 at the end of the fiscal year, and then 5,000 budgeted.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you think that's enough, like how much do we use?
Well, because it's 5,000 budgeted, every year you will get a chance to say,
I'm
okay,
just
that's
saying for
enough.
like this year, if we have, God forbid, another fuel hire
Oh,
or
I see.
But
something.
thankfully, we
Like,
do
do we
have a
have
generator
enough?
in the ring. Will
Okay.
already be up and running, so
Okay.
that's off
So
this
we're
race,
good.
already paid for.
If it happens at
I
that
don't think
age.
any of you have been around here long enough to remember some of the storms we had years ago, when there was areas in this province that were cut off for 2 to 3 weeks where you couldn't even get to them. And I can guarantee you that somebody from Wood Islands could not get up to the Belfast Ring.
And that's
for
what we're gonna
That's
talk
what we're
about in
talking
about.
section
That's
C.
another line.
That's the next section.
Okay, but
What I'm
all
saying
Jim,
is,
do
go ahead.
you think,
I think we should put it in this year,
okay,
that generator.
yeah, okay.
The
That's
generator's
the next one,
That's the next
but the
one.
emergency fund that we're talking about, Trish is suggesting, and Billy and Catherine are agreeing that we put in 5,000 from the 65 and budget the 5,000 from then on until we say that's enough.
Yeah.
The next item will be going, it talks about the generator for Wood Island, but on this point, do you think that the 5,000 is enough, or do you think there should be more out of the 65 for the emergency reserve?
So you're putting 10,000 in.
Okay, so that's good enough for now?
I don't really.
Okay, so let's go with that. Everybody seems to agree with putting 5,000 from the 65 reserve and also putting the 5,000 per year.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm sorry, Lynn, I forgot to.
That's okay.
Okay, then the next item,
10,000 it is. Yeah.
the next item, I should let you know that we'll take a break after this, after we're done playing P24. Unless
You
we
agree?
think you need it
Yes.
sooner.
Yep.
Okay?
I do.
It's
7:32.
Okay, well, how about we just finish the reserve?
Yeah.
We'll take a break and then get back to this. So the next item on there is a reserve fund for the second warming center. That's what Jim was talking about. Having a generator at the Wood Island through Whiteack. I already spoke to them. They are very much on board of having this as a second warming center opportunity. It's good because washrooms are here, kitchen is here, meeting room is here, gathering center is here. The only thing they don't have is the generator. Okay? We would be working with them to determine how much the generator costs. For the Belfast Rec Center, it cost them $50,000. But we only came up with 21. They had to find the rest themselves. And then through other government grants. The Whiteack one should be significantly less. We don't know what that is yet, so the suggestion is, and we still have some work to do, so why don't we just put some money away in second warming center reserve, generator reserve, and once we find out exactly how much it's gonna cost to get it and install it, then we'll be able to make a decision on where we should cap it. That's all.
Just be in touch with Whiteack, with John Gross, whatever it is there, and tell them to get on the ball and get that taken care of. Get the price and get the costs, and if the costs are reasonable, Toby should deal with it.
Can we
and
be,
buy it.
I'm sorry, I don't think you were implying it, but I think we need to be respectful because we are on camera and to tell someone to get on the ball, it just comes across as a little aggressive.
Not
being
only,
aggressive.
thank you, Trish, but not only that, we haven't made a decision yet. If we make a decision that we are gonna help them with a second generator, then we'll ask him, we'll say, this is what they have, we're gonna put some money in reserve. could you get a quote or whatever? So it's a little premature to ask somebody to get on the ball to do something when they haven't even got a proposal from us.
Said they're currently looking into the requirements on the cost.
That's right, they are looking into the requirements for it, but we haven't asked them yet. We've only suggested it as an idea. We're waiting for this strategic planning session to happen to decide if you want them to do that. Right now, they're doing some preliminary research in case council decides, hey, we like the idea of a second warming center. So that's where it's at. It's all preliminary. So what I'm gathering around the room here for the past year, and certainly today, is there seems to be a want for a second warming center should Belfast Rec Center go down or not be able to service the emergency because of whatever's happening in that area. So that means we can do a reserve fund for a generator. We have 65, actually we have 60 now in the reserve fund. And we can set aside $5,000 a year. We know that a generator is going to probably cost $20,000 to $25,000. But we would only start, because it's going to take a couple of years, you have the luxury of time to say, well, let's put in $5,000 to start and then just plan for monies each year.
And I think that's right, because it's going, the rec center didn't happen overnight, and I don't think this one's going to happen already. So I think putting 5,000 every year until we know, are they wanting 10, are they wanting 15?
So out of the reserve of 60, approximately that is left, do you want to take 5,000 out of that and start the reserve and start the planning? That's more important. Start the planning and the process for developing a second warming center.
Can we say that now, and then if YDEC comes to us in 6 months and says, hey, we've got this, we need this money, can we increase it at that time?
If you have any money left in your 65
Yes.
reserve, you can make that decision at any time of whatever money's left in your reserve.
Okay.
I think.
So, but to start, in case it's going to be a 3 or 4 year process, you're saying that you start with $5,000 and put in $5,000 each year after that.
Yes, until we know,
Until we know.
what grants have come in, what can we do to help. But after being at both ends of municipality during Fiona and helping many people that couldn't have gas to get to wherever they were using any gas they had to be able to keep their generator going, they didn't have any extra to be able to come get food. The warm centers at the rec where it was up there for a couple days or down at the ferry. So I think for such a large area, we really need to be able to help.
Second largest on that?
Exactly. So,
No, it's just
Okay.
responsible.
Do I have concurrence that you want to do 5,000 out of the reserve for now and 5,000 each year, or is there a different amount you want?
Does Wood Islands Development Corporation, do they know that we would be supportive of them going ahead and getting this generator?
Yes,
Do they know that or yet?
Based on the discussions that we've had, they believe that we are very interested in doing a second warming center. However, council has not made that decision yet. So all they can do is say, based on the discussions we have, it looks like that's the way they want to go. So they're doing some preliminary work. And they were very much interested at the time being that second warming center based on the preliminary discussions. So until we finalize anything, we haven't finalized anything. Everybody is working on the same page as far as being supported. So I seem to have a concurrence about the 5 and 5, not the 65 budget, which now brings the reserve budget to 55,000. So on that note, we will take a break and be back in 10